Hey everybody, welcome to Hit Rewind. This episode discussing the comic books of 1999. I'm Michael and John's on the other side.
Hey, hey, hey.
I don't think I even do an introduction for ourselves in the last episode. I don't think I did. All right, so we're gonna listen to the show. What we do is we divide it up. He does Marvel, I do DC and Independent, and kind of random things of the like newsworthy kind of stuff that pops up for that year. John, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, all right. I don't have any Marvel news because at this point we're still having the Marvel had sold off a lot of their assets to film companies, so they just stay floating just above total bankruptcy and going out of business. But they still managed to put out a ton of comics. Although they ended in the Incredible Hulk with issue 474, then turned around and just relaunched it as Hulk.
I really hate that comic book companies do this all the fucking time now. The only reason you ever restarted something was one massive event that required like crisis, or the comic had come to an end, and you're like, well, fuck. And then like 3 years later, they try to give it another shot again, and that's why they would reboot. I don't understand this horse shit now.
Yeah, and around this time is sort of where a lot of it kind of begins. But at the same time, well, we did just have Heroes Return. So I guess technically you did have, was it Bruce Banner, I think, was in the Heroes Reborn.
Oh, was he? I didn't remember him going in.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, because in the last few months, I've been reading all sorts of these things, and I know I got to the end of Hulk. It simply wiped my memory. Really Incredible Hulk. So I don't remember. I think it was, it's when they did that stuff. Bruce Banner ended up there, and he just kind of had a Savage Hulk running around.
Oh, okay.
But you also have a couple of new miniseries, a Moon Knight series and a Black Widow series. It's like, in the Moon Knight one, Mark Spencer returned from the dead and tries to keep the world from realizing that he isn't dead, but then eventually fails and finds himself being a target of these assassination attempts.
Moon Knight is one of those, like Blade, that they're always trying to reboot and save somehow. And Moon Knight's been more successful than Blade, because I think Blade's only ever gone like 1 year at most. Where Moon Knight, he had like 5 or 6 years the first time at most, and then he went another like 6 or 7 years in the late 80s, early 90s. And then, the Charlie Houston run, and then what's the one that's really famous? The one that they based the TV show off of, where he's in an asylum.
Oh, God, I can't remember.
Carrie Ryder is on that one, but yeah, the minute that's over with, it loses all momentum and it gets canceled like a year later. So he's one of those where people really cannot lock on to what makes him so unique, but also keep people engaged.
Yeah, I have read this one, and this is a good series. The Black Widow one, I've also read.
Yeah, it's the Marvel Knights series, right? That was really good.
Yeah. And this one was really cool too, because it's basically they end up Natasha comes into contact with her, and they start discovering the secrets of their past.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it's Devin Grayson wrote it, and J.G. Jones did the art. And it's probably the best I think that Black Widow's ever been.
Yes, yes. I'm not a big fan of that character, but that is one of the runs I think 100% is like most iconic run. Galactus the Devourer. There's a 6-issue miniseries that was originally supposed to be part of Louise Simonson's Silver Surfer run.
Okay.
But that Silver Surfer ended up crashing and burning. So she went and took this last plot thread and threw it out here. Basically, it examines how the universe actually needs Galactus to actually function properly. But it does also end with the death of Galactus, which would then become a plot point that would be picked up in Fantastic Four a little bit later. Let's see. Nova got a third bite of the comics apple. And the series that ran 7 issues.
Who was it? I didn't hear you. Nova. God, oh, yeah. I remember Eric Larson was writing it, and he did the cover art, and I was super excited. And then it's not there. Whatever it is, the magic that you have with Savage Dragon just isn't there with Nova.
Well, basically, I think they realized how bad it was early on because it led to him joining the New Warriors.
Mm. Well, he was.
You gotta,
No, wasn't he always part of New Warriors? I swear from the very beginning.
no, because this is where he takes over. It's their second volume.
Oh, okay. That's right. It's not the original series.
No, and that series had ended as well, and now it's like, oh, we're gonna get this to be a new teen book again, and shit.
Yeah. It's like Alpha Flight, where they keep trying over and over. Whatever they had that lasted a decade, they can never reclaim.
True, but there are also people willing to take a lot more chances at times too. M10. I don't know if you remember this little brief imprint.
Yeah,
But
barely though.
yeah, it was the late '90s. Computers were all the rage, so Marvel decided to spin an imprint out of this idea. Took some of their technological based heroes.
Machine Man, right?
Very forgettable. It's part of X-Men art, for God's sake. But now you think it's all techie and stuff. Iron Man would be involved, right? Kind of like how he's saying Force works.
Yeah. Oh
No,
boy.
fuck that. Fuck that. We were getting Deathlock, X-51, the Machine.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Okay, that's all terrible.
Actually, I haven't read the Warlock ones, but I've listened to another podcast that was talking about them. The Warlock series actually kind of sounds fun.
Okay.
And it's based off of Douglock, formerly a character named Douglock, who ends up discovering that, oh no, he is actually the dead mutant alien Warlock. He just has parts of his dead best friend's memories imprinted on him too.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of him working out that stuff. And the Deathlock series I've read, and it's not that good.
Was Deathlock ever good? It just seemed like it was hype in the early 90s.
There was, God, what can I think of the guy who wrote it? There's like his first main series, I think it is, was really good in the '90s. That one's really solid. The problem is they also have like 4 different Deathlocks, so every time you get one, it's a different character. Pretty quick.
Great.
Let's see, Earth X, created by Alex Ross.
Holy shit. I forgot about that one. Wow.
Universe where the Inhumans carriage and mist sweeps across the globe, and pretty much everybody has superpowers. So it's what would this world be like if being super was all that special? And it's basically the
Yeah, but Kingdom Come is so great, and that always felt like it was just a copy. Well, wait, hold on a second. Isn't Marvel's? Yeah, Marvel's is basically his masterpiece in the Marvel universe, Alex Ross. So I can't say that nothing he did at Marvel really mattered, but it seemed like he was more of a DC guy.
yeah, 100%. Like yeah, Marvel's is great. Earth X, no, Earth X was never good, and they kept going back to that well, and it just every single time I've been stupid enough to read it, it just gets worse and worse. Let's see. Surprisingly, I have not gone to X-Men yet, so I'm going to finish up with some X-Men things.
Okay.
You get the discovery of the first of Destiny's journals, aka the Books of Truth. Disney was a villain was always hinted at because you had the comics code, but she and Mystique were lovers.
Oh, I did not catch that at all.
It was pretty obvious that they were married, except they couldn't ever say that these 2 gal pals were more than just very close.
That's what the comics code was protecting children from? Fuck them, fuck that.
And it explains why Mystique loses her shit once Destiny dies. But basically, when her powers manifested, Destiny, who's a precog, wrote down everything that she saw in these series of journals. And they were guarded by Mystique for years. But then, eventually, they got misplaced and scattered. And Shadowcat is the first one to discover one of these. And realizing how bad it could be if someone has all this foreknowledge, she decides she's got to go and find these things.
By the way, there's a certain generation that only calls her Shadow Cat, and there's a generation that only calls her Kitty Pryde.
Yeah, I'll use those interchangeably. Actually, she's now Kate Pride.
Oh, well, she's an adult now. Yeah.
She's finally grown up.
She's Catherine Pride.
Actually ended up becoming the theme of a series called Extreme X-Men in a couple of years.
I barely remember that one. Okay.
It is not a good series. Let's see, you have X-Men's Magneto War and Magneto Rex.
I don't remember any of this.
Well, okay, so for a while, the X-Men have been running around with what they thought was this de-aged amnesiac Magneto. He was going by the name Joseph.
Oh, okay, yes, I remember, yeah.
Turns out he's a clone the whole time, created by an acolyte of Magneto's that we never knew existed until now. And Beatrice going to use Joseph in this overly convoluted revenge scheme because Magneto is basically a very bad boss. And so there's things happen. Magneto ends up deciding that he's going to blackmail the UN to give him a land for mutants to have. Joseph and Magneto fight, and there's a thing where the Earth's magnetic field's going to be destroyed. But Joseph sacrifices himself to save the world, and the UN gives Magneto control of Genosha. Which, considering that it's this mutant-hating country, they're not really cool with Magneto being in charge. And Magneto Rex is basically him consolidating power and becoming the king of Genosha. And it leads into some very interesting stuff, which will then be the basis for the next big era of X-Men.
Okay.
But yeah, I was just so glad they got rid of Joseph, because Jesus Christ, Joseph was annoying. And finally, okay, technically this series runs mostly through 2000, but it starts here, and we're going to talk about it here, and it's a thing called the 12.
I don't remember that at all either. Wow.
It starts off with Wolverine getting killed. Holy shit, that's not supposed to happen.
Is it alternate universe? Ah.
So, for the last, 5 or so months in real time, we've had a Skrull Wolverine running around with us.
Oh, Skrull Wolverine?
Yeah. And it's like, holy shit, this is going to be a thing that'll pop up again later in Secret Invasion. But this is also different than that. But while this happens, we start learning that Apocalypse has been starting to kidnap random mutants. Except it's not random, he's picking 12 specific people.
Okay.
And I won't list them, but honestly, if you know X-Men, you would kind of get a guess as to who he gets. It's the usual fucking.
Yeah, not Maggot? Aw.
God, I wish I wrote it down because I can't remember. There's one.
That's weird.
He's picking these people up so he can achieve godhood.
Okay.
And there's the Destiny Diary that I mentioned earlier. There's also conveniently mentioned, there's actually a 13th mutant. That is important to this.
Is it Antonio Banderas? That's my favorite movie, The 13th Mutant.
But, there's the new Horseman of the Apocalypse running around, and we discover, we now know where Wolverine went to. He became Death. And holy shit, he's got his adamantium claws back. So, this is where I had to make that apology. I had mistakenly remembered it being Genesis, Cable's shitty son, doing that. No, that was a failure. This is where he gets the claws back.
All right, we over in that. Sorry, was that the end of Marvel?
Pretty much. And it's basically, it just turns out Apollo's trying to achieve godhood. It doesn't go right, and Cyclops becomes Apocalypse.
Hey, boy, these are the dry Marvel years, with the exception of Marvel Knights. Boy, woof. But this is right after their bankruptcy, and they're only, they only have like 12 lines going at the time, or 12 series going at the time, and like just they're trying everything they can. We just got over M2, I think, and then we're doing what you said, Next Tech or something like that. They're really just trying to cast out anything to get attention from anybody. Who knew, like, the next year we're going to get, like, what was that Marvel Universe for the relaunch? The new Spider-Man or what? Ultimate line. That's it. Yeah. But over in DC, they're firing on all cylinders. They're doing great. And as much as he fucking blows ass for what a piece of shit he is in real life, Chuck Dixon really just taking the reins of the whole Batverse. And the No Man's Land kicks in. We just had Cataclysm, which it levels all of Gotham. And No Man's Land, I think, goes for 2 years. And and it was such a phenomenon. We got audiobooks, we got novelizations of it. It launched the new Batgirl. It was really a fantastic line because it's like apocalyptic. It's trying to survive what is left of Gotham. Most people have moved away. And we have Batman and, Robin and Batgirl basically holding the line where it's a gang war. The Penguin, I'm trying to remember, Penguin and Two-Face and someone else are all trying to get their section of Gotham. And it's funny is this helps launch the Nightwing comic, which I feel like is at the end of this year and next year. It didn't come up in my notes, where a lot of the people from Gotham are moving to Bloodhaven, and Bloodhaven's having the same exact fucking problems because the crime just moved to a new city.
Where are you gonna go if you're not in Gotham?
Yeah.
Go to a city called Bloodhaven.
It's 20 minutes away. And then he launches Birds of Prey, which they come into the whole storyline towards the end, which is originally it's just Huntress, Black Canary, and Barbara Gordon as it starts with Oracle, thank you. And then eventually, as the series continues, they add more characters. Oddly enough, Blue Beetle becomes a pivotal part of the comics, and I thought it was really fun and very forward-thinking. He did a great job, but of course, other people have come along to take the reins. It's still going strong to this day, and I still think that's the best fucking DC movie of the era.
Yeah, I'll say this. I've loved a lot of the Birds of Prey stuff, and honestly, Barbara Gordon as Oracle, I think, is probably her strongest character.
Yeah, I don't understand why they had to change her back to Batgirl. That's not, yes, I'm glad she can walk again, but that's not what she does now.
Yeah, it was always nice to have someone who basically truly was, because in as much as DC has smart characters and, smart scientist types, but she seemed to be this, like, smarter than everybody else because she was Batman with seemingly unlimited resources.
Yeah, and everybody liked her. So people wanted to work with her.
Yeah, as shitty as it was that, yeah, she gets paralyzed in the Killing Joke and, victimized, and how icky you feel about that, basically where her agency is taken away in the story. Although I also kind of go, yes, but it isn't about, as much as what happens to her is not about her. It's all about the point of what Joker's doing to Gordon.
Right.
It's like, yes, it is the most monstrous thing you can do to this character, but it's not meant to be, kind of, yeah, oh, we can undo this with, oh yeah, she gets surgery and it's okay. Like, kind of how it would have with Batman, where it's just like, oh yeah, Bruce Wayne took some herbs and his back is better.
Ugh.
I don't remember what the hell happened.
Yeah.
After in that, it was incredibly stupid and convoluted. Whereas, yeah, it's like, no, she had to now completely reframe her existence.
Yeah.
And becoming Oracle is, truly worked for this character. And she became really the most powerful character in the DC universe
for a long time too. 2 decades plus is where she became a pivotal point. I think it's so funny is that the villains decided to have their own version of Oracle named the Calculator, and that was kind of fun watching those two go at each other because they knew everybody, they had all the tech access and stuff like that.
It's like, yeah, I'm glad that the Batgirl comics are good with her.
Yeah. Well, that's Gail. Gail Simone is, I'll say this, if you want to read Birds of Prey and you don't have anything to do with Chuck Dixon, go read Gail's run. She's as good as or better than Chuck.
Yeah. Both series have their strengths and flaws, but I will say Gail's run, I think, is more consistent.
All right. Besides that, we have Justice Society Returns. It is not the JSA series just yet. That's about to come up, but kind of testing the waters to see, hey, can we take these, what people consider corny characters and their silly costumes from the 40s and modernize them? And I think they do a really great job. James Robinson just kind of reinterprets everything that we already knew about them and tries to make them more palatable to a new audience. And of all the DC series that I've ever read, JSA is my favorite. It's my favorite team. The legacy that they always pass down. You have their 4 or 5 older characters and they're teaching the next 2 generations. And it all starts here.
Yeah, it's like, I know we did a JSA series a long time ago, and I can't remember if this was it or if this was something else.
I can't remember. I do know. So they kind of died off in the early 80s before Crisis happened. It was kind of cleaning the slate. And they did a little thing in 0 Hour. Some of the JSA members were still alive. And then they wiped out half of them like instantly. And all that was left was, like, if I remember correctly, it was Wildcat, Green Lantern, the Alan Scott version, and the Jay Garrick Flash. I don't remember if there's anybody else still active. There was Sandman, but he was, retired, and he gave his, not Sandman, Starman, which that was another great series. I kind of like just testing the audience to see if they're even interested in these old school characters.
Oh, I will say this only because it will bother me if I don't get into it. The guy who wrote Deathlock that did the best Deathlock stuff is Dwayne.
Oh yeah, Dwayne's great. Yeah, who did also great work over PC. Yeah. We have Day of Judgment is the big event of the year almost the big event of the year. This is the one where Spectre loses, is it Jay Corrigan or something like that? The host, the human host, and desperately trying to control, because if you don't have a human host harnessing the powers of the Spectre, it can go bad, which it did like 10 years later during Infinite Crisis, I think it was. But this time they choose Hal Jordan, try to give him, this is the slowly building up his redemption arc.
Yeah, it's like, that was about the same, like, well, okay, yeah, the Spectre, and I remember that Hal Jordan becomes the Spectre at some point. I'm going, okay, is this the event that caused that? Because, yeah, that was a big deal for people, was Hal Jordan going crazy and becoming paralyzed.
Yeah. And 2 years earlier, or maybe 3 years earlier, he sacrifices himself for Final Night. So we've gone a little while, and the audience is still like, that's a problem with a lot of comic book fans. They can't move on. But at least it's a way to bring Hal Jordan back, but in a different way. So not to negate what Kyle has done, which they did like 10 years later, which always still gets under my skin. They're always doing this, undermining everything they've developed.
They keep having to invent colors for the Green Lantern to have, because there's only so much you can do and keep that comic running.
Yeah, I got burned out after, Great Blackest Night? Basically after that, it started going insane with the colors. I was like, okay, I'm good. I'm done.
Yeah, it's like, I think it's fine that they want to have, okay, there's different aspects of this, blah, blah, blah. But, yeah, they just ripped off the Marvel Zombies line for Blackest Night.
Yeah.
And then, and it's like, yeah, but where else are you going to go with this? And it's like, there's a good reason why the Nova Corps never really had a long-running series.
Yeah. So they did a miniseries called Law, which reunites all the Charlton characters. So they have Captain Atom, Nightshade, Peacekeeper, Blue Beetle, The Question. I feel like there's a Judo Master, I think, is the last one. There might be another one in there, which is kind of a fun little mystery they're trying to solve, and just slowly unites all of them over the 6-issue series. If you're a Charlton fan, or just kind of like obscure kind of titles, it was a pretty good miniseries.
That's what I'll have to look into, because that sounds interesting. And I really like The Question.
Yeah, it's not collected, so you have to buy it individually, but I don't think anybody out there really gives a shit about it. No one talks about it, so I'm sure you can get it for the cheap. And then Grant Morrison ends his JLA run with World War III, and holy shit, what a great fucking run. Damn, it's so good.
I'm trying to remember when I worked at the bookstore if I've read this collected.
He really Yeah, he really helped save JLA. I like the other run, but it was always a little more silly and kind of, hey, let's just grab whoever is not locked down to a title kind of thing, or who we want to promote. And they kind of watered it down with Justice League Europe, and then there was Extreme Justice and Justice League Task Force. And I think people were just kind of exhausted by it all. And in 96, we have him come on and just, it's the core seven plus, for some reason, Plastic Man. And just really high-minded but easy to understand kind of stories. Like they're very, very like, oh, that's something I never fucking thought of. He did a brilliant job on this series, and again, the minute he left, it kind of lost its steam.
Yeah, I know we definitely did his first arc. I know we covered that.
Yeah.
Like,
Was it Justice Beyond?
I'm pretty sure I read a couple more from that, and it's like I'm trying to remember if I did that one or not.
Yeah, it feels like when he left, that it kind of went back to the same bullshit before, where they're just now just picking random people. Yeah, some oddball people showed up, like Azrael showed up in his run, or Aztec? Was it Aztec? I think, not Azrael. I can't remember anymore. But it feels like after that they lost their way again, like they learned nothing from Grant. I want to say it was Mark Waid that jumped on after that. He was a really great writer, but for some reason he just couldn't get that formula going. And I guess that's all I want to say about that. Justice League's always a series that's being rebooted too. It's exhausting. I like when they have long runs. I like seeing issue 125, issue 250, that kind of stuff. I don't want to be like, oh, we got to issue 50, rebooting again.
Yes, I think the both of us are tired of constantly saying no.
Just call it a new season then. Can you just call it season 5, season 6 or something, like, so I can organize it in my brain?
Well, if anything, it's like at least respect that Marvel is doing legacy titling as well.
Okay.
Legacy numbering, I should say. So it's like, Spider-Man 72, but like legacy number, 400.
Right. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I don't remember if this is a DC title or not. I'm pretty sure it was. It might have been Vertigo. 100 Bullets. I never read it, but I know it's well loved.
Oh, I have read, that's Vertigo, and I've read the first 2 arcs. That was definitely one that I read when I was working at the bookstore.
Oh, okay. And over in the independent world, sort of, Wildstorm launches America's Best Comics, but then immediately sells to DC Comics. And then Jim Lee becomes a regular fixture at DC.
Yeah, it's like, I think by that point, didn't he just sell Wildstorm in general?
Yeah, I think he sold the whole thing. But it's so funny that he would take the time to launch America's Best Comics, and maybe while doing that, they're like, "Hey, DC just called and this huge offer." It's like, son of a bitch, I don't want to do this administrative shit anymore.
Let's see. I think under America's Best Comics, that's where League of Extraordinary Gentlemen dropped.
Yeah, we had Tom Strong. A lot of it was really retro. Who was the guiding force? Was it Warren Ellis on that?
No, that would have been Alan Moore.
Alan Moore. Oh, yeah, you're right. Okay, so he did like Top 10, Promethea, Tom Strong, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Where did Authority come from? Is that a Wildstorm?
That's Authority. Yeah, I think that was Wildstorm, and I think that was L.
Okay, so yeah, it's I don't know why I get the two confused, but they're kind of like, when people kind of hold those guys up in the high level, the comic writers, I get a little lost, but so it all goes over to DC. I don't think any of it, except maybe the Authority, has been absorbed into DC Comics, right?
Well, the Wildcat characters have.
Well, oh, right. Fuck. I'm sorry. I'm in America's Best Comics, but you're right. Yeah, Wildcats is over there.
Yeah, it's like those guys all popped up, especially once the New 52 happened.
Yeah, what was all in Wildstorm? Was Gen 13 Wildstorm as well?
I think so. I was like trying to sit there. I stopped being able to say words.
I do it all the time.
It's like I'm trying to think off the top of my head, and I think Gen 13 was Wildstorm.
Okay. What's so funny?
It's interesting because there's a lot of those. The stuff that was Image had that same style, and done the same thing with. Oh crap! Off the top of my head, up to my tongue, why can't I think of it? One of those other imprints that had anime.
Yeah, there's so many of those at that time, so it's really hard to tell who is who. But I think to this day, he is the only Image guy that sold his properties to someone else. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I think he is. Dark Cow is the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, I mean, Top Cow is still, no one's bought Top Cow, right?
No, Top Cow, yeah, Top Cow's still on its own, I believe.
Yeah, because then you have Savage Dragon, that whole imprint. I can't remember what his. I think it's his Homage Comics, and then Spawn, and then I don't know what's going on with Rob Liefeld. He was sued so many times, and there's bankruptcies and delays, and different imprints. Once he went to Awesome Press or something like that, Maximum Press or something like that. So I never know what's going on with that shit. I'm pretty sure he doesn't own Supreme though. I think someone else owns Supreme. But other than that, a whole thing just being sold to a different company.
Yeah, and yeah, they just basically didn't do anything with them for a long time.
Yeah, that happens a lot. I mean, fucking Disney owns a whole line of comic books and doesn't give a shit because actually they own two different lines they don't give a shit about. What was the one with Nightman and Prime? It was Malibu, right? Malibu. Yeah, so Malibu, they own all those and they own all cross-gen. They don't give a flying fuck. Give them to me. I'm not like I won't be able to do anything with cross-gen. But I would like to see someone else do something with that stuff instead of obsessing over Marvel. And DC, like, again, they just consume so much. I don't even think a lot of people there know what they own.
That's probably the key. They probably have no idea what characters they have on them, in order to like what
Yeah, and then there's all licenses and there's stuff like that. Like who owned ROM for a long time? I don't know what the fuck happened. Like then all of a sudden one day it's like, hey, we have the rights to ROM. We'll print it up. Okay, cool, thanks.
yeah, problems doing that.
Yeah. Kitchen Sink Press closes, which they were really like the artsy, independent, didn't want anything really to do with superheroes. Though I think they did The Crow, which is probably the closest. Did they do that? I feel like they did. Yeah. But it was one of those. But I remember when you were talking about like kind of like the more grown up comics that, oh, comic books aren't just for kids, they're for adults. Kitchen Sink Press was always kind of the one that I remember people bringing up.
Yeah, I think they might have had Road to Perdition. Like they
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of hard to remember. I think Strangers in Paradise might have been one of theirs, stuff like that. I'd have to look up. I should have looked beforehand, but my browser is all fucked up, so I usually do it as I'm talking.
so I know Streets of Paradise is like abstract, but then again they went to like three different like three or four different publishers.
Yeah. Dark Horse News, they preview Buffy and The Goon, which, I mean, The Goon is such a favorite of mine. I kind of sad that it's kind of not really the focus of Eric Powell anymore. And oh god, if you go on YouTube, watch the test reel that David Fincher and him were putting together for a movie, and it never happened. And it breaks my heart.
Yeah, like that actually was my first introduction to the Goon was that test reel.
Oh,
I
okay.
thought that looked amazing.
Yeah, I think it was Ron Perlman and shit. It's Sideways. Fuck, Star Sideways. Okay, Paul Giamatti.
Yes, starring the Rhino. Okay.
Yeah, it's Paul Giamatti. And then of course Buffy. It was what, Dark Horse Comic Presents, like one of their anthology, and they just did a short story for Buffy, and they put it on the cover, and it sold like fucking gangbusters, and immediately like they launched the series. And while, Buffy no longer has the cachet it did 20 years ago, they're still huge fans of it, and there's still spin-offs. I think the last one they just wrapped up was The Last Slayer, and it's about the next generation after Buffy and trying to rebuild the core. But I mean, remember they had like Angel and Firefly, anything in the Whedonverse, they were continuing on after the series ended. And, it was kind of interesting, like this little like, hey, let's give this a shot. Holy fuck.
Yeah, because they would eventually do, was it season 8? I think was where they ended up picking up wherever the series actually ended.
I think they went to like season 12 or 13, like they did with Angel. They just kept going and going and going. And there was the miniseries set in the far future called Frey. So it's one of those that really gave the Dark Horse. The problem with Dark Horse is a lot of it is relied on those Fox franchises. And when the Fox pulled its license some years ago, when Disney bought them and sent everything over to Marvel, it seemed a little questionable how things were going to go at Dark Horse. They needed to embrace their independent stuff, which, yes, some stuff can fail that you think will be a hit, but that's how you have to survive. Because the fees they were paying to Fox anyway for those licenses, I don't know how profitable they were with that.
No idea. Well, it had to have been probably because they kept doing it.
Well, Yeah, I guess because there's Star Wars, Aliens, Predator, and Buffy are the big ones I can think of. I don't recall any others. But I just wonder, like, when you balance out at the end of the day, what's giving you more money, and you have more control of? I don't know.
Well, that's my big thing with like all those licenses. Especially now that Disney owns.
Yeah. Well, and you think George Lucas for a while there kind of let people have free reign with the Star Wars universe in comic book and novel form. And then once the prequels started happening, he, took it back. But you got like 5 or 6 years there of like, oh, this is really an interesting idea. Let's just focus whole series on the bounty hunters.
Well, I saw the What If series that they did with the films, where you had, well, what if instead of blowing up the Death Star in Star Wars?
What if Christopher Walken got the role of Han Solo? All right. Well, that is it for me. Anything else you want to say before we go?
99 was a weird year for comics,
Yeah.
but ultimately everybody kind of recenters themselves, and we get some really solid stuff.
Yeah. We're past the boom. We're past the bust. We're in the rebuilding phase.
Yeah, but good Lord, the 12. That is such, for a series that's written by a lot of really good writers. Because you got like Eric Larson, Alan Davis, Chris Claremont's out there. Maybe Nicieza is back.
Yeah.
These great writers can't pull this concept together.
Terrible. All right, everybody, that is it. Thank you for listening. We are continuing the 1999 season. We have albums and movies to go. Thank you for listening.
Yep. I'll see you guys later.